Building your own subwoofer enclosure is quite easy. I recommend doing up a cut list and then having your local lumberyard pre-cut the wood for you. Here we are building the baffle to mount the subwoofer. We select a piece of wood to be the baffle, then using the template from the subwoofer's box, trace the circular outline. Now we clamp it to our workbench, and using a speed bore we will drill a pilot hole through the wood. This pilot hole is for the jigsaw. You place the blade of the jigsaw through this hole. This will enable us to easily cut around the perimeter of our tracing. And just like that, the baffle is finished. Now we remove the baffle from the workbench and you'll see that the circle is very nearly perfectly round. Now we are doing the preliminary assembly. We have not applied any adhesive at this point. Using a set square to level up the corners and the edges, we have placed the baffle on top of the two side walls. We will be drilling these initial pilot holes in each corner. The pilot holes are essential, as when we put the screws in, there is potential to crack the wood. Do all four corners first. Once we have completed drilling the 4 guide holes in each corner, we can move on to applying the adhesive. Now using our PVA glue, we run a bead along the top of one of the side walls. It is essential to get a good coverage of PVA glue, as the strength in the enclosure will come from the glue, not the screws. Place the screws finger tight into the guide holes. Now we align our baffle with our side panel, and then using our power driver, drive in both screws. In goes the screw, and the sides are perfectly aligned with the baffle. The clamping force of the screws is what will hold the enclosure together whilst the glue sets. Now we can proceed to doing the other side wall. Once the two side walls have been attached, it is quite easy to see how you would follow on with both ends and then, flipping the entire assembly over, attach the base. Once again we have run our bead of glue. We align our blocks of wood with each other and then place the screws in the guide holes finger tight. Now we use the power driver again and we drive the screws down to the surface of the wood. Now we drill the guide holes for the remaining screws to hold the baffle to the side walls. These holes should be spaced at approximately 4 inches apart. This is the completed enclosure. We have used a slot style port. On the back we have attached a terminal so it is easier to install cables and make it easier to remove the subwoofer if we need the trunk space. Here we are running the cables from the amplifier into the boot area. We're going underneath the rear seat and hiding the cable inside the plastic channels. The other end of the cable is pulled through from underneath the back seat. Now we cut our cable to length at the amplifier. Double checking the length, we remove the extra slack. Now we split the figure 8 cable in half using our side cutters. Again, using the side cutters, we strip the end of the insulation from the wires. Now we're ready to attach the speaker wires to the amplifier. We are bridging this amplifier, so we are using the rear channels left positive and right negative. This will essentially double the power into the subwoofer. Now taking each individual wire, separate the copper and twist them together. As you can see, this will give us a fork. This fork makes it much easier to insert into the terminals and get a good, clean connection. As you can see, the wires slide easily into the terminals. The only thing remaining is to tighten them down with our screwdriver. We are using this amplifier in a 3-channel configuration. The front left and front right are being used for the front left and front right speakers. The rear left and rear right have been bridged into a single channel for our subwoofer. Now we mount our subwoofer into the box. First, we need to wire the subwoofer's coils together, as this is a dual voice coil. We measure the length of our wire, cut it down to size. As we only need one side of the figure 8, we split it and then pull it apart. Now we only have one wire. Strip the ends using our side cutter. We wire the left positive to the right negative. This is a series connection. This will double the impedance of our coils. This is a dual voice coil 2 ohm subwoofer. In series, it becomes a single 4 ohm load, which is acceptable for our Clarion amplifier. Now we simply connect our external terminal to the 2 remaining terminals on the back of the subwoofer. With that done, we mount the subwoofer, then proceed to screw it down using self-tapping screws. Start by attaching the screws at opposite sides from each other. Do not torque them down all the way just yet. First attach a screw at the 6 o'clock position, then the 12 o'clock position, then the 9 o'clock position, then the 3 o'clock position. Then work your way around putting the rest of the screws in. Now we tighten down all 8 screws for the final fit. And just like that, the subwoofer enclosure is fully loaded and ready to go in the trunk. Make sure to measure the opening for your trunk area. Otherwise you might not be able to fit the full enclosure inside. Here we test fit the enclosure. Now we attach the speaker wires from the amplifier to the subwoofer, and we're ready to listen to some music.